In a world where left is up and right is apparently wrong, do souls make sense of it all? Or at least have fun trying? Gear up, friends, for Chicken and the Dog. Welcome to another episode of Chicken and the Dog. I am the dog, and with me, as always, is the guy that is one away from the century mark, the chicken. What up, dog?
What up?
Look, I'm actually joining you in that as well. Look, man, this is show number 99.
99.
Believe that, man? Show number 99. And I can't believe people have put up with this long.
Well, they've got 99 reasons to have walked away by now, but they haven't. So.
This is true. Look, man, it's Sunday. I ain't got no oh, no, man, I do. It's Sunday, and we just found out how this crazy bracket is shaping up and how it's shaped up. What's the final? But before we get into that, let's go ahead and dive into these games, man, that just happened yesterday and Friday. And I'm going to say, you and I both thought there was a potential for some drama. And there was, man. There really, really was. And I think I've got most of these games right. If I have to go back, when we go through this, I'll remember. But I think I hit everyone with the exception of North Texas. So let's jump into that game. So North Texas, number 24, took on a number 20 Tulane. And Tulane was favored to win that game as they should have been, but it wasn't by much. But Tulane ended up beating them 34-21, solidified their stamp into the college football playoffs.
They certainly did, and it was a great afternoon. The big push here comes from Tulane's defenses. They pick off Mestamaker 3 times from North Texas in that event. He throws for 294 yards and 2 touchdowns, but those 3 picks are critical to help propel the Green Wave not only into their conference championship throne, but also into the college football playoffs.
Absolutely, man. And what's really cool about this game, man, and what I just love it, is the fact that I know that their coach is staying on until, to see them through the playoffs. And good for him. And good for the program for allowing him to do that and understanding that taking this Florida job, although they're sad that he leaves, they understand. I mean, Florida versus Tulane, I mean, come on, right? So they get that. It's not like what happened between LSU and Ole Miss, or Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. We understand that as well, and we beat that dead horse. But I think it's great that the team still rallied around, knowing that their coach is leaving, and they still fought and played a great game. Let's see how that happened. Let's see how that translates in the next level. We'll see.
That's right.
A number 25, James Madison, took on an 8-4 at the time Troy in the Sun Belt Championship game. JMU, baby, they won 31-14. They're in.
They're in, and they did it with the run game. Wayne Knight, 21 carries, 212 yards, and a score. Arlanza Barnett, their quarterback, 12 more carries for 85 yards and a touchdown of his own. He also throws for a touchdown, but also throws a pick that night. But the Dukes finding a way to stay alive. That's what they had to do. They had to stay alive, and we'll get into some more of that later, and earning themselves a spot, not only as the Sun Belt Kings, but going into the playoffs, baby.
Staying alive, like the song. Look, man, here's another group of 5 game that happened. The Conference USA Championship game. Kennesaw State had to take on Jacksonville State, and Kennesaw State won it, man. They beat them 19-15. We called that game. That's who we went with. And, I mean, great for Kennesaw State coming into this program, into the big boy football or big-ish boy football. And that's a great win. Great look for your school.
Yeah, second year playing big boy football, and Amari Odom throws for 246 yards and a touchdown to help propel the Kennesaw State folks to their first championship there, playing Group of 5 football.
Yeah. This next game I got right. I don't know if you did. I don't think you did. Um, but you may have. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I got you.
the Mountain West Championship game, a really good, great season for UNLV. That is the University of Las Vegas. And look, man, they had to take on always a strong Boise State. Boise State's always strong in that conference. I believe this is their last year in the conference. I do believe. I think they're moving into the Pac-2, the Pac-8, the Pac States, whatever it's going to be named. But look, man, Boise beat them 38-21. Great look.
Yeah, great look. And as you mentioned, we're used to seeing Boise State in this position, maybe not with a 9-4 record to where they're not even knocking at the doorstep of the college football playoffs this year, but certainly in taking home yet another conference crown. Great job for the Broncos.
And I'm even going to give UNLV, man, some props. And Dan, I'm going to give Dan Mullen some props. I know I don't like the guy. I think he's a punk. But if he wants to come on the show and, win me over, I will welcome him. I doubt he will. Anyway, look, man, I mean, that's a good look, though. I mean, going into this program that has struggled for so many years, and he took them to their conference championship game. Great job, Dan. Way to go.
Great job. 10-3 season. Nothing to be ashamed of there.
Absolutely not. And then the last group of 5 conference championship was the MAC, the Mid-American, and Western Michigan had to take on a Miami of Ohio, and they were playing in Michigan, and Western Michigan won, man, beat them 23-13. Good job. I think you and I both called that one.
We both called this one for the Broncos, and it was a lot like watching a high school game. Just two guys going at it for the state championship, although it was the MAC, but the Broncos come out on.
See, senor. All right. Now let's get into some big boy football. We had a noon kickoff, a number 11, man, 11-1 BYU, the Fighting Mormons, had to take on, just a powerhouse, great, well-coached 11-1 Texas Tech. They were playing in Dallas, and Texas Tech ran the floor with these jokers again and beat them 34-7. My God, it was Texas Tech. What they did in that game, in my opinion, is they said, we belong.
They definitely did, and they said it in a big way. 34-7. Not only did they beat BYU, which they had done a few weeks prior, but they snuffed them out completely. Your guys had a great game. This was not only the kickoff to big boy football on Saturday. This began the 0-4. Yes, you heard it here. We talked about chaos in championship weekend. The 0-4 performance of the Chickens picks for who was going to win what. I lost every single call as Texas Tech and the Red Raiders end up beating BYU 34-7. I thought BYU was going to kick off the chaos, and in a sense they did, at least in my
way. Yeah. So they were sitting at number 11, and we'll get into the rankings when we go, but they out.
They out.
Then the next game that happened, a number 3, 11-1, had to take on a number 9. They were 10-2 going into this game. Alabama. So a number 3 Georgia taking on number 9 Alabama, and Georgia beat them 28-7.
The chaos continues.
Oh my.
This if you're going to have a bad game, which players do, I don't care what level, what sport you're talking about, the best players will have a bad game. This was the wrong one to do it.
Yeah.
Ty Simpson looked as off as he has looked all season long. So much commentary about the pressure that the Georgia defensive line was getting into that backfield for Alabama, and they were. But Ty Simpson's day was completely thrown off. There was a lot of commentary about the fact that Jam Miller was sitting out this game, and Hill had to be in there largely because of his abilities in pass pro, not because of his abilities to catch the ball. But I'm going to tell you, if you're throwing it at the heels of my feet, I'm going to have a hard time catching that ball. Ty Simpson was off, had a clean look late in the game to a touchdown pass, but overthrew his receiver by about 2.5 feet above his head. Just not good. We thought that this was going to be a polished performance from a Brady like quarterback in Ty Simpson. It was anything but. I thought that this would be the game where Gunnar Stockton was going to show a crack in his armor because of the aggressiveness with which he plays. He played aggressive football, but he played dominating Georgia football, and they come out way on top of the time.
Yeah. And look, man, you kind of mentioned this a little bit. You talk about the the hoopla about, well, Jam Miller was out and their other running back was out, and Hill's going to have to carry the load and blah blah blah, and that's why this blah 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 blah. When you are a program like the University of Alabama, when you're a program like Ohio State, when you're a program like Georgia, and I'm going to throw LSU in them, these blue blood Texas, these blue blood that's got that's always in the top recruiting. They're always got plenty of NIL money. When you're one of those type of programs, man, if you're on that roster, you better be ready to play to make an impact. I don't want to hear from any Alabama fan, well, it wouldn't have been that way if we'd have had Jam Miller. Shut up. No, your guy should have stepped up and played good football, and he just didn't, man. Georgia held Alabama to -3 rushing yards. -3. Georgia, I spoke about this, that Georgia's defense, there's nothing that's just over it flashy about this defense. They're just good all the way around, and they just play together really, really well, man. I like Georgia. Of course, I like Georgia, but I like the way that they're peaking at the end of the season. They are reminding me of an Ohio State of last year. Really a solid foot program.
Alabama has had struggles in running the football and protecting the front pretty much all year, in contrast to previous Alabama teams. Okay, but Georgia, not only did they apply that pressure up front against the run game, the Georgia run game performed well in going up against the Alabama defensive front, which opened up so many opportunities for Gunnar Stockton, even when the protection would break down. So just hats off. Georgia played an amazing all-around good football game. In Alabama, their struggles came back to bite them.
Yeah, and look, I'm glad that Kirby finally got over that hump to be able to beat Alabama in Atlanta. He struggled in that area when he's not when he's not facing Alabama. He plays in Atlanta. He plays well. I mean, really well. But that was a good win I think that was a huge win for Kirby Smart. I mean, not that he needs more confidence, but just to maybe get that monkey off his back. I think the biggest momentum shift in that game and it just happened early is when Georgia blocked that punt, man. When Georgia blocked that punt, it's almost like Alabama, you just knocked the wind out of their sails. They went, oh. And that's just how they played.
That, and for me anyway, the maybe worst decision of the season for the Tide. I think it was 4-2 deep in their own territory, and they go for it against that Georgia defense. Really? I mean, I know that you're Alabama. I know that championships is what you do, but when you're that deep in your own territory and it's 4-2, punt the blinking ball and put it on your defense to get it back. Which in the second half, they were actually through the whole game, they were doing a pretty decent job of getting the ball back, finding another opportunity to try and score. That was just a terrific decision that went for Georgia in the sense that they had about as short a field as I think they may have had all year long.
Yeah, Georgia, they were pretty methodical in their play calling. It's like they knew they had this game, and their entire play calling was wrapped around that. You never saw them getting nervous. You never saw them, like, oh my God, we have to scramble, we have to hurry up, we have to do this. They just played their game, and it worked very well for them. Will they be able to do that throughout the playoffs? I don't know. We'll see. Based off of the rest of the scores we're about to talk about, I'm going to say yes. I think Georgia's defense and their offense has the capability of, from this point forward through the rest of the playoffs, to be able to play their game, their style of play, and probably won't have any issues of having to come back. That's just my guess. This next two games, man, that happened that evening, man, were really good. So I'm gonna talk about the one that didn't really stir the pot too much, and we'll get to the one that really just threw everything out the window when it comes to the playoffs brackets. A number one Ohio State had to go to Indiana and play a number two Indiana. Both of these teams were 12-0. First and foremost, and I think we said it in the last show, hats off to both of these coaches, to both of these programs. To go 12-0 in a season is just hard to do these days, and you did it. Somebody had to lose this game, right? And it was a nail biter. I thought it was going to be a higher scoring game, looking at Julian Sand versus Mendoza and thinking, my God, these two quarterbacks are going to light it up. But that was not the case, man. Indiana beat them 13-10.
Yeah, an amazing performance by the Hoosiers. Hats off to them. They play the role of spoiler this year instead of the Michigan Wolverines to Ryan Day. Does it do what the loss to the Wolverines did last year and propel the Buckeyes to go through the playoffs? That will remain to be seen. Fernando Mendoza, 222 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Julian just saying 258 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. I mean, what a great game. And it really made you pay attention, if you're an SEC fan, to the Big Ten championship.
Absolutely, man. And I went to church this morning and went and saw Dub. And Dub was, he's a big Ohio State guy, man, from Ohio. And he was disappointed. And he's like, man, I don't understand why we kicked that field goal. We had 4th and 1. It was a 27-yard field goal. You had 2 minutes and some change left in the game. That field goal would have tied it up. Yes, the correct answer was kick the field goal, tie the game. He's like, no, we should have went for it. No, you shouldn't have.
Nah, this was not a case necessarily where Ryan Day coached his way away from victory. This is just Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers are a real football team, folks. We thought they might have been a flash in the pan last year. They proved us wrong this year by going 12-0 in the regular season, and then put the exclamation point on that statement by knocking off the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was, I'm proud of Indiana and the way they in this season, man. They just played really, really great football. And I also told Debbie this morning as well, look, man, it's hard to continue to keep winning in a season, man. I mean, to go that undefeated. So you can look at it like this. It's probably a good motivating thing for Ohio State to have that loss now. And then, like you kind of said, are they going to be able to use that as fuel to push them all the way through? I don't know. We'll see. But I think it's I definitely think that it's not a bad thing that they lost. All right. And to the game that really messed everything up. And look, your Miami Hurricanes are very happy.
Yeah, they are.
Here was your ACC conference championship game. And we kind of made fun of this when we did the forecast show to talk about this. So you had a 7-5. I said that correctly. A 7-5 Duke having to take on a 10-2 number 17 Virginia. And they were playing in North Carolina, I think in Charlotte. They were playing in Charlotte. And Duke did it, man. They beat them 27-20. So your conference champion in the ACC is an 8-5 team, an unranked 8-5 team. Not a good look.
Not a good look. I've not been through all of the tiebreakers and the explanations of how in the world Duke ended up in this game. It should come down to something as plain and simple as the two best teams in your conference, since we no longer want to play divisional football, which would have pitted Miami against Virginia, two 10-2 teams. from the ACC. However, Duke at 7-5 slips in and plays spoiler to the Virginia Cavaliers, sending them home from the playoffs. And Duke, yeah, you ain't getting in either. Great year, your ACC Conference Championship Kings in this one, and I'm sure there'll be a swell bowl game for you as a parting gift, but it ain't going to be a shot at the Natty.
No, not at all, man. But look, all in all, yesterday it didn't disappoint. And I think it was Pat McAfee. He actually picked Duke to win this game. He says, look, man, he goes, we got to have some drama somewhere. Give me Duke. And so he was right.
That's right.
And so, I mean, craziness, man. Great football. The theme of this weekend and what happened with these teams stayed pretty consistent in what happened this whole entire season. And it was just, I mean, the teams that were number one at the beginning of the season, I mean, Texas was at the top. If you think about it, Texas ain't even in the playoffs. Now, Texas had a decent season in the stretch. There's no doubt about that. And they should, I don't think the Longhorns should hold their head on what their season ended up being this year. Not by any means. Smoking D, keep your head up. But man, it was a crazy. So let's talk about.
Before you get into that, let's take a step back. If you'll notice, folks, we did not have a dog of the week from any of those games. And here is the reason why. You made it this far, with the exception maybe of Duke by slipping in under the radar. But you made it to your conference championship game. You won your conference championship game, folks. All of our conference championships, all of our conference championship winners are your dogs of the week. Yeah. Boise State all the way up to the Georgia Bulldogs. You guys are our dogs of the week, brought to you by Breaking Chains Fitness. bc-fit.net is their website. Look them up. Get in touch with Brian Lentz. Help him help you achieve all of your goals, whether they're championship oriented or not. He will help you become your best physically, mentally, and spiritually. A lot of the times when you start clearing up one or both of those things, it all bleeds in together, making you the champion that you could be in your own life.
Yeah, I like that, man, because I kind of like the way you did that, man. Gave all of them the dogs of the week, because it is kind of hard, especially late at this point, man. I mean, all these, a lot of people played well, and so it's hard to find that one person. But I think it also goes hand in hand in what Breaking Chains Fitness is all about, man. It's not about singling out one person. Brian Lentz is there to help a bunch of people to bring championships to your home, to your life, to your spiritual life, to your physical life, man. And I just want to thank Breaking Chains for their sponsorship and believing in Chicken the Dawg. I don't know how much he believes in the dog, but he definitely believes in the chicken. And look, man, thanks B for being there for us, man. We love you. All right, playoff.
We go.
The bracket. Here we go. Here's the standings. So Indiana jumped to number 1. They should. Ohio State went to number 2. And I don't know if I agree or disagree. Does it matter? Probably not. I think people, like I said, does it really matter? No. Some people are going to argue that maybe Georgia should have been number 2. I don't care. Georgia's number 3, and Texas Tech is number 4. So the top 4 never changed.
Top 4 didn't change, and really, unless it had been a blowout. I mean, Indiana beats Ohio State by a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
If that had been some type of a blowout, I could see cause for alarm if Ohio State had not been knocked down more than a spot. However, where would you put them? With it being as close of a battle as it was, where else would you put them? Would you put them at 3, bumping Georgia up to 2? Okay, maybe, but does it really do anything for you? At this point, no, because you're in. And these top 4 schools all get a bye, so they all get the same results, whether they're ranked number 1 in the seedings or whether they're ranked number 4 in the seedings. The end result is the same. You get to sit back and watch and see what happens as to who your next opponent is going to be.
That's right. And then Oregon State at number 5. I think that's right. Ole Miss stayed at number 6, man. So I like where all of those are sitting. A&M stayed at 7. Oklahoma stayed at number 8. And here's a surprise that a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of controversy over this. And you're probably going to have quite a bit of the gold helmets that like to wear green really shout and be mad about this. And I think there will be some legitimacy to their argument, some. But Alabama stayed at number 9, even after getting thumped by Georgia. They stayed at number 9. They were not punished for a conference championship.
They weren't punished for a conference championship. They weren't punished for a conference championship bad loss. 28-7, as we mentioned earlier. Virginia had a bad loss, not on the scoreboard, but because of who they lost to in the ACC, and they are left out looking. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't have a problem with that necessarily with Virginia's case. However, the fact that Alabama doesn't move down at all puzzles me a little bit. I could see Alabama even slipping to number 11. You want to keep them in the playoffs? I don't have a problem with that. Alabama had a really good year, a couple of rough spots when you call the opening loss to Florida State. That didn't end up looking good when you talk about strength of record. And then, of course, the blowout loss to Georgia here in the conference championship game. Those are 2 bad marks against the Tide this year. To move them down to number 11 and keep them in the playoffs, I think is still a win for the Tide. I'm not a Notre Dame apologist. If you guys, the committee's got something that they have to do here. Number 1, they have to keep conference championship games legitimate, which is a mark against Notre Dame, who chooses not to play in a conference or therefore a conference championship. But they also have to minimize the impact that losing a conference championship does because of what that could have done here. You could have invited, if you leave Alabama out, you bring Notre Dame in, that still keeps Duke out. Now they're whining because they won their conference championship too. You got to find balance in whatever way you can. I think the only way that we do that is with the tweaks that will happen after this year's college football playoffs. I think they're going to bring in 4 more teams to at least help address some of these concerns and eliminate the bye week maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah, and so going into that, you already kind of alluded. So sitting at number 10, last week at number 10 was Notre Dame. This week, and Notre Dame didn't play, but neither did this team. Now sitting at number 10 is the Miami Hurricanes and the Fighting Bucks. I like this, and the only thing I don't like about it is it looks like the committee shifted their mind a little bit because there was a lot of people screaming, most of them coming from the lower part of Florida, screaming, "Look, how can you put Notre Dame, that is also a 2-loss team, over a Miami when Miami has the head-to-head?" Very legitimate argument. Very legitimate. I don't think you can go against that. And so I guess there was enough chatter where the committee, even though these teams didn't play, they did nothing to move this needle, but they flipped it. And Miami is now sitting at number 10.
I think that Notre Dame actually needed Virginia to win the ACC. I think if Virginia ends up winning the ACC championship, then Notre Dame stays at number 10, and then Virginia slips in at possibly the 12 spot, maybe the 11, into the playoffs. However, Virginia lays an egg, is not able to beat Duke. Miami then becomes the best team for the playoff committee anyway from the ACC. Mm-hmm. And in that moment where you've got this 10-2 team and Notre Dame at 10-2, it has to come to head. Miami has that.
So you think it was you actually think it was the loss of Virginia that the committee said we need to have an ACC team in there, in a sense?
Absolutely. I think that you have, if you're going to have this Power 4 collective, which is the Big Ten, the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC, you have to have a representative from each one of those conferences. Otherwise, What are we talking about? Strength of schedule now means nothing. Strength of record doesn't mean as much anymore if we're going to somehow dilute the strength of our power conferences versus the group of conferences. I think that that's what it comes down to. And then because you had a Miami Notre Dame game, you had the benefit of a head-to-head matchup for that deciding coin flip of which one of these teams is going to get in.
And then because of Notre Dame, or because of bringing Miami in, and because of Virginia losing. Actually, Virginia is the one that caused these last two teams. They did. Tulane, because they won, was going to be in anyway, because they were going to be the highest ranked group of 5 team champion, right? So they were going to be Tulane was in. But because Duke won the ACC and they were unranked, they're a total of 8-5. They had 5 losses. That brought in JMU to come in and take that spot, which I find it fitting, and we won't get into the coaching stuff until later, but JMU lost a coach too. But I guess he's staying on as Tulane, the guy Tulane. So, but James Madison, we have 2 group of 5s in the top 12. What do you say about that?
I think it's fitting. Again, I think that there's going to be a lot that happens. Not only is the college football committee, the playoff committee, going to do some stuff to tweak, and we'll all see with bated breath how that plays out. But I think the ACC is going to go back and look at how they work their stuff, because while Miami is in, it's not a good look for them as a power conference. I mean, I've not done all the math to count it all up, but you've got the Big Ten with multiple schools in there. You got the SEC with multiple schools in there. Now, the Big 12, I think they've only got one with Texas Tech. Okay. And then you got the ACC. The ACC views themselves as being better than the Big 12, but the Big 12 has their conference championship winner in the college football playoffs. The ACC does not. The ACC had to find an at-large bid to win. If they would just tweak their conference championship game and how you play into that. So you're going to see a lot of after-season adjustments taking place here, but it caused the madness that gives us 2 group of 5 schools in Tulane and JMU.
Yeah, it's definitely going to cause some changes. Maybe not. I mean, maybe some within the ACC and some of these other conferences as well, but also in the way that they see or the way that this committee puts this together. I think you're going to have to, because at the end of the day, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they'll prove me wrong, but what if would Texas beat Tulane? A JMU? Probably.
So would Vanderbilt, and they're out there pleading their case as well. And I know where you're going with it, and I agree with it in the sense of ACC. Just keep it in that context for just a minute. Isn't Miami the only team out of the ACC? They didn't play in the conference championship, but aren't they the only team out of the ACC that you would sit there and look at and say, well, yeah, they got a pretty good shot. I mean, as great of a year as Virginia had, do you think that they're going to go deep if they get into this playoff bracket? I don't. Duke, give me a break. They'd be lucky to last the first half because they're not going to be playing JMU. They're not going to be playing Tulane. Duke would probably be playing Indiana or Ohio State. Excuse me. They wouldn't. They'd be playing Oregon or Ole Miss because they're not going to have a first-round bye. Either way, they are significantly outclassed, and they will get thrashed in that opening matchup. So there's got to be some stuff that happens, again, to kind of round out the edges. And I think eliminating the bye games is the first way to do that. It still means that your group of 5 at-large guys are going to get trounced in the opening round. Okay. However, it's going to end up with a lot more inclusivity to these other conferences to get some more teams in.
I like what you said about Miami being the best team in the ACC. And potentially the only one that actually has a legitimate shot of doing something in the playoffs. I wouldn't count Miami out. I mean, who are they going to play? We'll get into that in just a minute. But they can win. I think if Carson Beck throws to the right helmet, he's in good shape. The Hurricanes can win. But you're right. You mentioned Virginia. Could they go in the far playoffs? No. Could a Duke? No. Even though Georgia Tech had a phenomenal season, man. I don't want to take anything away from them. but you put them against any of these teams other than the last two, they're going to get beat. So I'm with you, man. The ACC as a whole needs some work. You have three teams for the Big Ten that are in. You had Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon. Are those the three best teams in the Big Ten? Absolutely. Is there a Big Ten team that could be in it that could actually do something? No. That's the three best teams. Then you've got Georgia, Ole Miss, A&M, Oklahoma, and Alabama. You got 5 SEC teams that are in this college playoffs. And is that right? Yeah, there's no doubt about it. All 5 of those teams are solid. Could you make a case for Vanderbilt and Texas? I think you can. They're, again, 2 solid teams that have the opportunity to beat. A Big 12, you got 1. ACC, you got 1. That only leaves a couple extra spots. And 16 teams, 12 teams, whatever, you got to play the best teams, man. And I think for the most part, other than the last 2, if you go 1 through 10, if you ask me, they got the 10 best teams.
They got the 10 best teams. I think if you bring in to a 16-team group, Notre Dame stays in, so they're not whining this afternoon. I think BYU stays in because their losses are to Texas Tech both times, so they get an opportunity to stay in there. You have the opportunity to kind of figure out what's going on in the ACC, maybe, but you also have Texas, solid argument. You've got Vanderbilt, solid argument. Well, right there, that's 4 more schools in Notre Dame, BYU, Texas, and Vandy. So you still end up with a really great group of teams. And by the way, you didn't have to punish Tulane or JMU.
Yeah, and it's funny you just said that. If they went to 16 teams under the current rules, you're right. Tulane and JMU is still in, and Notre Dame's in, and BYU is in, and Texas is in, and Vandy's in. Still only 1 ACC school. Still only 1 out of 16 teams. The ACC has got to fix their program, man. Their conference. It's broken.
Well, and I was going to say, I think the conference is broken with maybe some of the ways that they play into their conference championship. But the ACC had a down year. Florida State is still struggling, trying to figure out who they are or remember who they are. Clemson had a down year this year. Miami had a good year. Georgia Tech was... we thought they were going to be really good, and then they just kind of sputtered off at the end. But schools like Boston College, which used to have a really good football program, are just kind of out there in the wind. Like, that little dust bunny that blows around your house. You're like, what is going on with this thing? They've got to get some stuff figured out. They've got to bring in the right stuff into this conference. I think James Franklin coming into Virginia Tech is going to do some of that. Look for them over the next few years to start to build a program worth playing against instead of just worth showing up against because it's an automatic W. But yeah, I think the ACC's got to improve the product over.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into the actual talk about these particular games because we'll do that on the next show. But I do kind of want to run over now. Where does this line up? How does this fall? So on Friday, December 19th, Alabama gets to face OU again. They get to have their shot. OU has beat them back-to-back years, man. So Alabama's got their shot. Texas A&M has to play Miami. Oh, my God, is that going to be a fun game to watch? That's going to be Saturday, December 20th. And then Tulane has to take on Ole Miss, and James Madison has to take on Ohio. And then after that, in the semifinals, Ohio State is going to be playing in the Cotton Bowl in Arlington, Texas. And they'll play the winner of Miami or Texas A&M. Either one is going to be fun. I mean, that's going to be a heck of a game. And then Texas Tech is going to be playing in the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida. And they'll be playing either James Madison or Oregon. And then the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. Indiana is going to be playing in that one. And it's either going to be Oklahoma or the winner of Oklahoma and Alabama. And then Georgia is going to be playing in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. And they're going to be playing the winner of Tulane or Ole Miss. So, great games. Should be a lot of fun to watch.
I think it's going to be a good playoff this year. Hats off to Tulane and JMU, especially for winning and getting in. You win to get in. They did it this year. Again, we'll save our prognostications for the next show. Could be a quick bow out from those teams. However, a solid group of 12 teams taking the bracket here.
Absolutely, man. So look, we didn't have time today. I didn't have time to get it all together, but I will definitely I do have some dog barks that I want to get in. They're a little old. Well, they're a couple weeks old, but I want to get them out there because some of them are pretty funny. I like them. Anyway, they'll be very entertaining to go over, and we'll do that on the next show because we'll have some extra time because we just don't have as many games to talk about. But look, man, it was a great weekend of college football. You and I are 99 years old or 99 episodes old. Thank you for putting up with me with this podcast and in life in general.
I think in terms of measuring age by episode, we're still pretty young.
Yeah, that's right. So look, guys, man, love us, like us, share us, follow us, subscribe to us. Our subscription, everybody just we're getting more and more people listening to the show every day. It's a lot of fun. We enjoy doing it. Chicken, you got anything?
Jesus won, and I'm all crowed out.
All right, guys. Love you. Deuces.